You're listening to the 49 Carats Podcast, a 49ers Goldmine production with Stephanie Sanchez.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another edition of the 49 Carats Podcast. I'm your host, Steph, and I'm going to be talking about the latest 49ers news, but because, a lot happened while I was out at the Combine, and we're going to talk about it. Was hoping to have Chris on the show. He's on the 49ers cruise currently, so the Wi-Fi was just not Wi-Fiing, and so we'll touch base with him when he's back. I believe sometime next week, so he'll tell us how that went for him as well. I'm sure that's a pretty cool experience, but it's just going to be me today. Let's go ahead and talk about it. All right, we got some updates. Brock Purdy is set to have his surgery on Friday. As of right now, we still don't know exactly what that surgery is going to be, right? Because there's still the possibility that he does the hybrid surgery. Of course, he's going into it hoping that it's just going to be not the reconstruction, the brace surgery, which will have the 6-month timeline. The other option, of course, is the hybrid, which would be the brace plus the reconstruction. So we will find out more after Friday, and this date is important. It's a good thing that it's happening Friday and no later, because the legal tampering period before free agency is set to start on Monday. So 49ers kind of lucked out the fact that despite it being pushed back, it's still going to be before free agency, because the 49ers are going to have to figure out their quarterback situation, what they're going to need to do before free agency, right? And so having that information before the legal tampering period is going to be huge for them. And hopefully, of course, it's the best case scenario, right? Which will be the 6-month. As we've been saying, this is cutting it close to week 1, though, I believe. So if he has the surgery on Friday, we're looking at about September 10th or something around that for when that's about the 6-month mark. And so sometime around then, best case scenario, no setbacks or anything like that. That would be when he'd be fully cleared. And I don't believe that puts week 1 in question. So we'll know a little bit more after the surgery. We'll get a more definitive timeline, but for now, it's a waiting game. So that's the latest on Brock Purdy. Surgery set for Friday. Speaking of free agency, though, we heard, or there's been reports, Robbie Gould not expected to be back with the team. Makes sense. Makes plenty of sense to allocate that money elsewhere. I mean, obviously, Robbie Gould would be in line for a raise if he were to stick around. It makes sense for the 49ers to, at this point, want to move on and, try to put that money elsewhere. There's a lot of free agents out there. The 49ers could pursue free agent kickers. There's 10 free agent kickers, I believe, besides Robbie Gould. They could also draft one. Hold on. You guys hear that? Is that Jake Moody's music I hear? He's definitely an option. The best kicker in the draft, seen as Jake Moody. The 49ers also met with a kicker at the Combine, NC State Christopher Dunn, according to Matt Barrows. So there are options out there. So they're going to look to get something a little cheaper. I wouldn't mind the rookie route just because, again, I mean, it's a cheap contract, right? So that would be ideal for them, but we'll just have to wait and see. In any case, seems like the 49ers are going to be paying way less for their kicker next season. So not the worst news. Let's talk about the Combine. Rumors are starting to swirl. I flew in back from the Combine yesterday, and this morning, the rumors, the reports were just like firing from all kinds of different guys. Rich Eisen, Albert Breer, Mike Silver, all of them were out there. And so I saw some of them standing around some 49ers guys, just saying. So it's totally possible they were able to get some information from them. So I'm not doubting any of this information that they're putting out there as, being false. I think there's some truth to all of it. The first one was from Rich Eisen. He gave his top 5 rumors that he was hearing at the combine. He prefaced those that list by saying that he heard it from multiple people. He couldn't confirm that it's 100% true, but he heard it from multiple people. Usually when you hear something from more than one person, it's more than likely there's some truth to it. So let's start with the Phillip Rivers thing, because that's what we heard with Phillip Rivers, is that he is going to be Phillip Rivers apparently called the 49ers late in the season, interested in coming back. He also called the Miami Dolphins. Both of them were teams who were set to make the playoffs, who also, needed a quarterback at the time, or so you would think. Brock Purdy, of course, was playing well. So for the 49ers, it makes complete sense that they didn't want to bring in Phillip Rivers. I think it speaks highly of how much this team trusts Brock Purdy and how much they like him, right? So they didn't want to bring in Phillip Rivers because, of course, Phillip Rivers, if the 49ers were to have signed him, his expectation is that he would start. So clearly the 49ers felt that Brock Purdy was the best bet there. So no Phillip Rivers for them. And I don't know. Who knows if he's interested in coming back at all again, but I don't see the 49ers in this scenario being a option for them even then. But Rich Eisen also said another name. He said Tom Brady in one of these one of the rumors he heard was that Tom Brady may not be done. Like, possibility he comes back? Could be. And I mean, come on. I just don't think anyone believes it coming from Tom Brady. We'll just have to wait and see what happens. Yeah, okay. So Chris, the audio's not working, the video's not working, but we got you in the comments, all right? Chris says Phillip Rivers is not the move. I agree, he's not. I mean, again, because a guy like Phillip Rivers, if he's going to come back, he wants to come back as a starter, right? It just doesn't make sense for the 49ers to bring him in as a starter. A guy like Tom Brady, perhaps, though, I would be intrigued. If Tom Brady wanted to come back, I'm making a call. I'm making a phone call. I don't care. Let's put Trey Lance and Brock Purdy on ice for a year and see what Tom Brady can do with this offense and Kyle Shanahan's coaching. I think it'd go pretty well for them, quite frankly. So Tom Brady, yeah, that's a rumor. We'll have to just wait and see, I guess, if it's true. Definitely would love the 49ers to think about that one if that were to happen. Some other free agent quarterbacks that we're hearing 49ers be linked to so far: Baker Mayfield, who has just spent the last half of the season with the LA Rams. That would be interesting. I see the connection, I guess, because he looked pretty good with the Rams offense. He didn't look bad. So maybe the thought is same system. He excelled, or excelled is a strong word. He didn't look bad in it. So why not bring him in? There's also Mason Rudolph, who is another quarterback who has been mentioned as a potential guy they want to bring in as a free agent. I don't know if I like the Rudolph thing, but at the same time, we have to remember whoever they bring in may not even start at any point for the 49ers. So I don't know. Mason Rudolph in that regard suddenly doesn't seem that bad when you look at it that way. But, still. Chris says, is that Drake gif? Rivers? Nah. Brady? Yeah, I'm going to think about that one a lot more. Chris asks, thoughts on Mariota? I like Mariota. I mean, I think I mentioned him a couple episodes ago. and definitely a guy that would intrigue me. I think the only drawback on him is that he didn't handle the benching very well last season. So would he even be a guy who would consider potentially not being the starter, or would he want to go in a better situation? Because again, the 49ers have Brock Purdy, they have Trey Lance. Any free agent quarterback they bring in, unless the name is Tom Brady, any other guy they bring in would have to accept the fact that he may not ever start on the team unless an injury were to occur, right? So Mariota, I like the option, but I don't know how he would handle that. So that's the only concern with him. But some other guys, I mean, Jameis Winston, he's expected to be cut by the Saints, right? Because the Saints signed Derek Carr this morning, and so with that domino to fall, Jameis Winston becomes the odd man out in New Orleans, and Jameis Winston could definitely be an option for the 49ers. I mean, I wouldn't hate it. I feel like the 49ers are a perfect situation for a lot of quarterbacks. That being said, there are some quarterbacks who are just so bad that even in 49ers offense, they won't look good. Jameis Winston, probably talented enough. I know he makes a lot of mistakes sometimes, but probably talented enough that he could look a lot better with the 49ers than he has anywhere else. That much I know. So Jameis Winston wouldn't be a terrible option, I don't think. So that's another name to potentially keep in mind. But they're looking at some names. It'll be interesting because a guy like Baker Mayfield, I kind of feel like that's a guy who, even Winston, that's a guy who can compete with Trey Lance, like legitimately compete. And in that case, you're looking at Trey Lance maybe not being the starter week one. I do still believe that Brock Purdy will be the starter as soon as he's cleared. That much I know. But week one, as of right now, because the 49ers don't have any other quarterback on the roster besides Brock Purdy, I feel like Trey Lance would be the week one guy. But if they bring in a guy like Baker Mayfield, if they bring in a guy like Jameis Winston, suddenly you kind of wonder if either one of those guys would be able to be the week one quarterback, right? And what happens then? Well, we don't know. But those guys are good enough that they can compete with Lance is basically all I'm saying. That's all. Right. Chris says, unfortunately for players like Mariota, the league has kind of told them where they are right now. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Mariota has no business asking for a starting job, but I do feel like he would at least want to go to a situation where he feels confident that he could beat out who's there. And he's not going to beat out Brock Purdy when Purdy's back. So, I don't think he would like the 49ers situation for himself very much. Chris says Jameis should be a starter in this league when considering the other QB play we see week to week. I wonder if he would be willing to take a 3-string spot or temporary 2nd-string spot. And that's the question, right? That's what makes it so tough, because no matter who they bring in, it has to be a guy who's okay with being 3rd string or playing second fiddle when Brock Purdy's back, right? Unless, something terrible happens to Brock Purdy. But that's kind of what it's looking like right now. And who is that guy? In that regard, you might have to settle for someone like an Andy Dalton, which an Andy Dalton would be a great situation. I feel like he deserves to be a backup quarterback, so number 2, rather than, being a number 3 or something like that. But hey, we'll just have to wait and see on that one. But some interesting options for the 49ers in the quarterback market for sure. Speaking of let's talk about other positions that the 49ers could address in free agency. Jesse Bates is a name that Albert Breer listed as an option for the 49ers. Now, again, Albert Breer, a guy hanging out with some of these guys, 49ers guys. So it would not surprise me at all if maybe he got a little nugget from them. Who knows? But it makes sense too. I could see that. I mean, the fact that again, if Deshaun Gibson does not return, which it seems like it's been hinted that he's returning, like Nick Bosa kind of hinted that Deshaun Gibson would be back. But at the same time, we have to also remember the fact that Steve Wilks is going to be playing a lot of single high. Uh, does that fit Gibson's skill sets? How does he want to play a lot of single high? Oh, he doesn't fit his skill set. If those questions are if the answer to those questions are no, then Jesse Bates makes a lot of sense. And, if you want to upgrade your safety position, Jesse Bates makes a lot of sense too. You would have to pay a lot for him, but again, an option. So if Albert Breer is saying this, I feel like there's some truth to that. There's something to it. I think it's more than an opinion, in my opinion. But yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting. It really all depends on the price because the 49ers aren't exactly swimming in the dough. Not that they're like in the negative in the cap or anything, but they still have to be smart with their money. Another guy that has generated some buzz is Frank Clark because he is expected to be released. Now, that's not to say that the Chiefs can't work out a deal with him, but if he's going to test free agency, there's always a possibility that a team is going to be willing to pay some good money for him. I believe he's 29 right now, and he's still a very productive player, a guy who can make plays when it counts most. That's the kind of guy you need opposite Nick Bosa. So if the 49ers want to test that out, I feel like that would be a good option for them. Now, a lot of people mentioned the character concerns with Frank Clark. I mean, some people would not consider him at all just based on these things. Um, for me, I'm just looking strictly at the fact that the 49ers were interested in him before, and I think that interest would still translate to this season, especially because that is still a need for them. So Frank Clark looks like a great option for the 49ers. We'll just see if they actually dip their toes in that water. Now, Chris says, I am all in on Frank Clark. Yes, I would I would definitely make some calls there. Chris says internet strong if you want to try and chat. Let's try it. All right, Chris, can you hear me okay? You are muted, so all right, you're unmuted now. Can I hear you? Still not hearing you, so I don't know if we're gonna be able to do it. But in any case, I think next week once you're done with the cruise, I know you're probably having a blast there. So that I'm sure it's a lot of fun. Yeah, we'll try it next week. No worries, Chris. You're all good. But yeah, I mean the combine. Let's talk about the combine really quick. I had a blast. It was an awesome opportunity. Like the the first day that I was there, I was a little nervous just interviewing players and just a little overwhelmed, I guess I would say. So I didn't ask any players anything that first day, and I felt really, kind of bad about it. So, I prepared myself a little better for the second day and was able to ask some defensive linemen some questions. As you guys may know, I've been tracking who the 49ers have been meeting with while they were out there and in other settings, other like the bowl game, Senior Bowl, all that. Let me share what I have here. So, and if you guys haven't seen this sheet, I could send you guys the link. Let me see. Let me see if I could put it in the comments because that would be great if I could. I'm gonna send. I don't know if that actually ends up showing as a URL for you guys, but hopefully. But anyway, so here are the guys that the 49ers have met with at the combine, and you'll notice. So there's a lot of. Let me also sort this by position. There's a lot of offensive linemen that they met with. Let's see. Just 2 quarterbacks, not too many. A ton of tight ends. They met with a ton of tight ends. It seemed like they were meeting with all of the tight ends. Um, a number of wide receivers as well, kind of surprising. One thing to note is that the 49ers want to meet with a lot of players. I believe I heard someone say that every team gets about 60 formal interviews. So who they choose for those formal interviews is important because that usually would suggest more interest. So as much as I could, I was able to, put who has met with the 49ers formally at the combine. If it was informal or I didn't gather that information, whether it was formal or not, I simply put met with that combine. So the formally, though, speaks to probably better or just more interest on the 49ers part. So keep that in mind, right? So yeah, a lot of wide receivers. A guy that I really liked was Yoshiva's. I think that's how you say his name. Andre out of Princeton. He showed well at the combine. He put up some pretty good numbers. Dontavian Wicks is another guy. Mingo, couple guys. Jake Andrews. I was able to talk to him at the combine. I interviewed him. He's awesome. Great kid. He was at the Senior Bowl too. Senior Bowl was a bit of a mixed bag for him. I mean, for some reason, all of the centers at the Senior Bowl were just struggled with like snaps, and there was a lot of weird snaps. But Jake Andrews did pretty good in the one-on-ones. Certain snaps or one-on-one reps were great and really eye-opening. So he did meet with the 49ers at the Senior Bowl. He said that was an in-depth meeting, and he also said the 49ers came to see him a couple times at Troy. So again, that kind of speaks to extra interest as well. So keep an eye on Jake Andrews. He's a center, but he's very versatile. He's played guard, both guard spots as well. So definitely a guy who, could give the 49ers some versatility on the line. Let me see what other guys I like. Man, the tight ends, this tight end class is so deep. I don't even care who they get. No matter who they get, I think I'm going to be happy because that's just how good all these guys looked. I mean, obviously, Sam Laporta, guy out of Iowa, TEU, getting a lot of comparisons to George Kittle, of course, because of that Iowa connection. But great guy as well. Zach Kuntz, I'm going to say Kuntz. You guys aren't going to get me saying anything crazy on here. Zach Kuntz out of Old Dominion, because he's from a smaller school or a lesser known school. A lot of people didn't really know who he was beforehand. When I was doing like my research to just prepare for the combine, he was a name that kept showing up as like this guy could raise his stock at the combine. So I made note of it, and lo and behold, by the end of the week, he's one of the top tight end names that you just kind of kept hearing. So Kuntz is definitely a guy that you want to keep an eye on. His meeting with the 49ers was an informal one, but again, a guy I liked out there. Wiley, also out of Cincinnati. He's a great kid. Braden Willis was one who, his comment was interesting because he said that the 49ers loved him. He loves the 49ers, and there could be a relationship there in the future. We'll just wait and see kind of thing. That was big. Like the fact that he mentioned that, he could have just said like, yeah, I met with them. But it seems like they have some very high mutual interest in each other. So another name to keep an eye on. And Brenton Strange also looked good at a Penn State, tested well. So just some names to keep an eye on. There's some guys that I think helped raise their stock a little out of the 49ers range a bit, possibly. Was like Skinner, Jail Skinner, definitely. As far as like the interviews go, Skinner did not actually test, so that may be the one thing that is good for the 49ers just in case he drops. He tore his pec, so that's why he didn't participate in any of the drills. But he was there to meet with teams, to talk to the media. So Skinner was a guy who I really liked when I was there at the Senior Bowl. Daniel Scott out of Cal, you really didn't hear his name much before, but I liked him at the Senior Bowl. That's really where he kind of caught my eye. And so I made it a point to talk to him as well. He told me he met briefly with the 49ers. Briefly, to me, makes it sound like it was an informal. But Daniel Scott also has the opportunity to attend the 49ers or be invited to the 49ers local pro day. So we'll just have to see if the 49ers do bring him in for that, because that then would be an opportunity for the 49ers to meet with Daniel Scott there as well. They wouldn't have to waste a formal meeting. So yeah, Cal, Daniel Scott, keep an eye on him. He's 25. That's like the one knock on him, really. But if you look at how he tested, athleticism off the charts. So in my opinion, I feel like in the later rounds, day 3, late day 2, you consider a guy like Daniel Scott and you feel good about it. But yeah, if it weren't for the age, I think he'd be going much sooner. You would hear about his name much more often, but he's tested well. So just keep an eye on him. A few running backs 49ers met with. I would be shocked if they drafted a running back before day 3, if at all. But offensive linemen, they were all over the offensive linemen. A lot of centers, surprisingly, who they had met with. Blake Freeland out of BYU. He had a formal meeting with them. Ryan Hayes, Jalen Duncan also had formal meetings. Tyler Steen has met with the 49ers twice. He met with them at the Senior Bowl as well. So something to keep an eye on there. Noak Salvaderi, also out of Old Dominion. Guy to keep an eye on. So yeah, just a lot of offensive linemen. And so I completely expect the 49ers to draft an offensive lineman. The question is when, at what point. The tackle market for the offensive lineman in the draft, I don't think is super deep. But, the 49ers always like to move guys around. So it's possible that they see a guy who has played a position before. They want to move him to right tackle. Maybe. I don't know. They've done that in the past. A lot of defensive linemen, as that's not really surprising. Would have probably gotten more names, honestly, if I really didn't bounce around a lot to talk to the defensive linemen. Probably there could have been more, but DBs, good amount of DBs. You'll see like all of these were formal. Jay Ward, Mekhi Blackman, Darius Rush, Riley Moss. Like these guys tested really well as well. So just some names to keep an eye on. But if you guys want to see who all the 49ers have met with all together, I'm just going to remove this filter. And whoops. Here we go. Select all. And yeah, you'll see all the names that they've met with throughout the process, and it's pretty up there. It's like close to almost 200 at this. Well, okay, not close to 200, but and I'm updating this every single day. So if you guys are interested in this kind of stuff, this is the content you want to see. Check out that. Thank you, Chris. I really appreciate it. Who is my favorite tight end? That's a tough one. Honestly, I don't know if I have a favorite. I think I like all of them. There were maybe 2 or 3 guys that I was like, yeah, no. But besides that, like all of the guys that were there, I really liked. And yeah, like Leonard Taylor. He met with them at the Shrine Bowl. But he did not look great in some of the drills that I watched. So he's probably one of the ones that I didn't, really like. But I like Kuntz. Laporta is awesome. Obviously, Darnell Washington was like the guy to look at for tight ends. probably out of the 49ers range. So that's why you won't hear me talk about him much, not because I don't love him, but I can't picture him getting to the 49ers unless the 49ers wanted to trade up for him, and they probably have to go up pretty high to get to him. So I don't expect that, but I love Darnell Washington, athletic freak. He's huge. But yeah, like I said, like Josh Wiley, Brenton Strange, Braden Willis looked great. Who was the one? One of them looked really great in the blocking sled. So I thought that was notable because that's important for the 49ers. You better know how to block. The guy that it was Brenton Strange. Brenton Strange looked great in the blocking drill. He's a Penn State dude. So Laporta, not so much, but everything else looked great for him. So honestly, like I want him to draft a tight end, and this is the class to do it. They're gonna get a quality guy, I think, no matter what. Yeah, Nathan, they did meet a prospect, Sean Tucker. He is a running back. That is in my spreadsheet as well. Let's see, where is he? I'm trying to find it. Sorry, Tucker. Yeah, he's out of Syracuse. Met him at the combine. Not sure if that was formal or informal, but yeah. Chris asks, does Steph go free agency or draft for a kicker? Are you talking about the 49ers? I don't know. I mean, there are 10 free agents besides Robbie Gould the 49ers can look to. I mean, there's some guys there to like, right? Like there's Pinheiro, there's Matt Gay. There's options, the Greg Zuerlein potentially. Brett Maher from Dallas, I really liked actually. So that could be an option for them. I expect that Dallas is probably going to extend him or look to bring him back. But if not, I would really like Brett Maher. Mayer? Here I go butchering names again. But it seems like they talked to at least one kicker at the combine that we know of, right? So they can potentially go kicker in the draft. Who knows? Jake Moody would be, if they go the kicker route, the rookie route. Jake Moody would be my choice, but we'll see. Yeah, Matt Gay is an option, former LA Rams kicker. So, and they're cap casualties left and right in LA. So I don't think they're gonna look to bring him back. So we'll see. All right, guys, I am probably going to call it. I have to do the Bully Ball podcast. We're recording that in a bit. And you guys are going to want to tune into that one because I'm going to talk about the story of me meeting John Lynch. And you guys might have seen the picture. I met John Lynch. I'm going to talk about the story, what led to that picture. So I would definitely talk about that. Make sure you guys tune in to the Bully Ball podcast tomorrow. Make sure you like this video. Make sure you give it a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you have not yet. More great content coming. Tomorrow I have 2 prospect spotlights to do. Both of the players are named Tyler. I believe Tyler Richardson and Tyler Roberts. Tyler Roberts, tight end out of Merrimack, and Tyler Richardson, wide receiver out of Tiffin. So both of those guys will be on the podcast tomorrow. We're going to get to know them really well. So make sure you guys tune into that. And yeah, have a good rest of your Monday, folks. Peace.